podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Hello and welcome back to Humans of Speedway. Hope things are going well where you are and coping with, at the time of recording, Lockdown 3. But hopefully the end is in sight. Keep our fingers crossed. And at the time of recording, teams announcing various squad members and people starting tentatively to make some plans, and hopefully 2021 will be a better year for Speedway than 2020. So coming up, we're going to have some new material for you. It'll be coming at the end of the month, all being well, for reasons that will become apparent. But the next episode will be with Chris Morton, MBE, Bellevue Aces legend, one of Britain's all-time greats, and such a nice chat with it as well, and so many great stories about all the things he's been involved in. Northern Riders Championships, representing his country, 7 World Finals, including that 1981 World Final at Wembley, and so much more. So that's going to be coming very, very soon. This episode is another chance to hear one of our Humans of Speedway Paradise sections again. This is where we get each of our guests to create their dream meeting. And I always ask the same 6 questions to everybody. So if you're creating your dream meeting, which track would you choose purely for the quality of the racing? Which stadium would you put that track in? Your all-time 1 to 7. Who'd referee the meeting? Which rule of Speedway would you change to improve the sport for the better? And which team that actually did exist would be your opposition for your all-time 1 to 7. So always asked in every episode. You can listen back to them right now, but this is another chance to hear the one of Phil Morris, the FIM Speedway Grand Prix race director, and for the Speedway of Nations as well. And if you believe what Wikipedia says, a big fan of Kendo Nagasaki. Anyway, let's hear what Phil has to say in this episode where we talked about his dream meeting, starting off with which track would he choose. And of course, don't forget, Phil Morris being race director of the Speedway Grand Prix, he knows a track or two. So here is Phil Morris.
It's a really tough question, actually, because when you've spent 14 years at a track, which you know, like Reading, where you know at the back of your hand, it was very good for me because I was not the greatest skater, but I could pass. So that's got to be up there. But there's a few others I thought about. The one especially was Trelawney. I only raced here probably 4 times. Absolutely loved the place, and it was an amazing little track. During my later years, I definitely enjoyed your smaller, tighter tracks like your Edinburgh and Arena Essex, which are not going to be on people's radar. But I think, not saying it, this is no disrespect. I'm not trying to butter you up, but I do think Bradford may have been my favourite ever racetrack.
Wow, there you go. You see, and so, might be coming back. They keep mentioning.
Potentially. So, yeah, Bradford would be there. And then I'll also throw in Marmont as a long track, separate to Speedway, because that was a special 3-corner track with 20,000 people there. And, yeah, so Speedway, I'd go Bradford. For long track, I'd go Marmont.
And did you do ice Speedway as well?
Telford, not the proper stuff. Yeah, I did quite well at Telford. I've sort of been on the British Championship rostrum a good few times and that. But, yeah, never the real ice racing. I've actually worked on it for the last few years. The FIM have got me involved to try and improve the feel and the flow of that championship. So the last few years I've been quite involved in it. But yeah, not actually on the real big spikes.
Yeah, that is crazy Speedway, that.
Yeah, very crazy.
Now, the stadium that you'd put that track in.
Stadium, okay. So obviously, I would like to pick Cardiff because of what it is, but I know it's not a real Speedway stadium. But for me, being my local stadium, I would have to pick that. But thinking of a real stadium as, let's say, there's a track there. I will say Horsens, again, another one that's not a real track and it's built there. For me, Horsens was a perfect Speedway venue. 12,000 people. Very tight to the track. When I was there, I just felt this feels right for Speedway. It's great to be in Cardiff and Warsaw, but that's only one-offs. But I thought that felt great. But for me, you're probably looking at probably Leisner or Torrent for me. They're both Torrent's a good brand new type stadium and tight, where Leisner was a bit more of an open stadium. So I'd probably go for one. But then saying that, Gorinchem. only a 6 or 7,000 stadium, but what a beautiful little stadium built. So it depends on what you want, So for me, for a Speedway feel, because we're not Premier League football, we're not, Champions League football. I think Gorichen is actually a beautiful little built stadium. It's all sort of built in sections. So I'm going to go for Gorichen as a bit of an outsider for everyone else.
Nice. It's the first time it's been suggested. I was going to deliver my Torren fact for you there. Do you know that Torren's track is based on Bradford?
And Per Jonsson loved Bradford, so that's his input into it.
Yeah.
He told them how to do it. So yeah, a lot of it is based on that. I am aware of that one. But good fact, though. Good fact.
It's a good one to have up your sleeve. It breaks the ice at parties. If you go into a Speedway party.
That's the same when I'm the first one on the track at Cardiff. It's a nice one to have on the CV.
First ever round Cardiff. I mean, how did that track feel when you first rode it? Because I mean, I know it varies year on year.
To be fair, it felt like it was billiard table smooth, like concrete. There was no give. I remember doing a start in the back straight. It made no rut or anything. It was. They just said try outside, inside, wide, tight, cut back, and there was not a ripple on the track. And of course, a good fact that you may know, what caused one of the big problems was a rider, and I think it was Piotr Protasevich, did a practice start in the middle of a corner, and it caused the track to sort of move a little bit. So that's what caused some problems there. There you go, another interesting fact.
Right, so our practice starts on corners banned now?
They were, but the track's got so good now, we don't need to worry about it now. They're built so well, it doesn't cause a problem now. Officially, they shouldn't, but they still do it. But
you get away with it now. Let's move on then to the, I think the bit that people look forward to the most, your all-time 1 to 7, the dream team from Phil Morris. Off you go.
Right, well, number 1 is an easy one for me, Per Jonsson. Without doubt, racing with him for a few seasons. He was the most gifted person on a motorbike I have ever seen. What he could do, how he could get out of trouble, how he kept his wheels in line. From a speedway rider, to watch him when everyone else is locking up and doing things, and he's almost road racing around, was phenomenal. And of course, he was my hero. I looked up to him, and it was such a tragedy when he had his accident, because I think I only ever seen him come off his bike once in like 2.5 seasons. That shows how good he was, and he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. So my number 1 is definitely Per Jonsson.
Fantastic rider, and a big fan of riding the Bradford track as well, as we mentioned before. Let's go then to your next choice. 1 world champion on the board. Who's next?
I'm going to go with number 5 then, my other big hitter. And that's going to be Hans Nielsen. Before I was 16, I used to watch him and be in awe of him a little bit, and just how much of a dictator he was, especially when he was off gate 4. He would be at the white line before you could blink, and he'd win a lot of his races by repetition, I think, more than anything. But yeah, that'd be my 1 and 5 big hitters.
Yeah, I think as big hitters go, Per Jonsson and Hans Nielsen, a fairly good start. So who else then would we have in the makeup of this Phil Morris all-time 1 to 7?
Yeah, well, partnered with Per Jonsson at number 2, I'm going to put a good friend of mine, also former world champion, Jason Crump. That's a good opening keep partnership, Per Jonsson and Jason Crump. I know they were good friends as well, and Jason's got a lot of respect for Per. Yeah, Crumpy's one of the hardest racers you'll ever meet. And you wouldn't get every time he gets on a track, he raced in my farewell event, and I knew he wanted to win it. He wasn't there to just put on a show. He wants to win everything he's in. So yeah, and a lot of respect for him, raced with him and a friend. So yeah, Jason Crump 2. Okay,
so who's going to be at number 3? Or are you going to choose a middle pairing?
So my middle order pairing, 3 or 4. I'm going to go for absolute legends of British Speedway, Mark Lorham and Joe Screen. Again, both good guys. I would class as friends. They were a bit older than me in the youth grass track, but I looked up to them, and respect to them. Their racing ability for both of them to be able to put the bikes in places and do things phenomenal. So them guys as a partnership, I don't think either of them are good gators, so you'll definitely have some good races when they're out.
Yeah, and probably a good time off the track as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. They like to enjoy themselves, and I'm sure that they'll look back fondly on everything they've done.
So Per Jonsson, Jason Crump, Mark Loram, Joe Screen, and Hans Nielsen. You've got 2 reserves left. Who's it going to be?
So number 6, I'm going to go with Armando Castagna. A few reasons. When I joined Reading, he sort of was my big brother in a sense and looked after me. And I've told the story a few times, and I quite like it. That we was racing in I think it was the best pairs, I think. And he looked in the program, and he said, "What does this mean, Phil?" So I read it and I said, "They may not be the favourites on the track today, but they're the team you wouldn't want to meet up a dark alley." So yeah, he quite liked that, and yeah, he's a very, very strong, tough guy, and somebody I've worked with now, and probably one of the most instrumental guys in me getting my job at the Grand Prix. So yeah, as a respect and a thanks and everything, he's going to be there at number 6. So just got one more to go.
Okay, then drum roll.
Drum roll. So my number 7, I don't think anyone will ever put this in a team on your podcast. That's my prediction.
Go on then.
It is Freddie Williams.
Yeah, not so far.
2 times world champion, and he was Welsh. So that's my link there to somebody that's not many riders come from Wales. So yeah, he's not with us now, bless him. But yeah, Freddie Williams would be my number 7 just because of what he did, being world champion twice. I'm Welsh. You know, we got a dragon on the flag. We have to be different to everybody else, you know.
Absolutely standard, yeah. It goes without saying.
You don't none of these crosses or things like that. We have to have a big red dragon in the middle.
I know. Yeah, I mean, I was living in Cardiff when there was a football tournament on, and it's a dicey business.
Very.
Right, who would be the referee?
Tough one, because again, if you've noticed, with my team, I've sort of stayed away from current riders. I've got to be a little bit careful in my decision. I couldn't go with current Grand Prix guys. Wouldn't look great. Well, I suppose Crumpy's still on the scene, but I don't think he's going to be back in the Grand Prix, so I'm okay there. Referees, I've got an affinity with Graham Reeve and Tony Steele because they helped me on the ladder to where I am. Graham Reeve with the under-21, under-16, and Tony Steele involved in me being clerk of the course at Cardiff and working my way up the ladder. So them 2 are definitely in with a shout. But even though I didn't probably have that many meetings with him, I've worked for 5 years with Graham Brodie as the Speedway Grand Prix secretary, and we've become very good friends, and I've heard so many stories about his refereeing and things he's done and things he didn't and how he's done them. I think without doubt it has to be Graham Brodie as the honorary referee for my meeting.
You're listening to Humans of Speedway, another chance to hear the Speedway paradise of FIM, Speedway GP and Speedway of Nations race director Phil Morris. Coming up, we're going to find out who will make Phil Morris's all-time opposition for his dream team and which rule would he change. Find out in a sec. You're listening to Humans of Speedway. I'm Ian Brannan, and in this episode, it's the Speedway paradise of FIM, Speedway Grand Prix, and Speedway of Nations race director Phil Morris. He's creating his dream meeting, and he's about to change a rule. Which rule would you change, Phil?
We've already spoke about it, really, but I just generally feel a randomizer at the start is going to make people wait until the tapes go rather than guessing. For me, there's 2 words. There's anticipation and his reaction. We want people to react to the start and not anticipate it. That's the reality. And it's the same in any other sport, whether it be athletics, swimming, cycling. You know, you have to wait for that bang, gun, tapes, whistle, whatever it is. But we can't seem to do that. And it's frustrating for everybody. And it's the most complaints I have about people, you know, having a restart. Why does it happen? And you know, we've tried our best to not let him in the pits and things like that, but it's a 3-minute delay that a lot of people hate. So somewhere along the line, I would say we've got to try and fix this some kind of starting issue.
And finally, who would be the opposition against your team of all-stars then? This is any complete team from history that you could invite along.
I think I've already mentioned the team. I was lucky enough to be part of it, so I'm going to be racing against them, which would be a bit of a daunting task. But it's Reading Racers 1992. And I still remember it fondly. And one of the things that I wrote this down, I laugh at people now joking about they can't help it about Speedway Nations being towards the end of October. It'll never happen. Oh, ridiculous putting it on there, British weather. But that year we won the league, we had 18 meetings in October.
Wow.
So there you go. And I think we had double headers left, right and centres with Bradford, if I remember some of them, with the cup. But yeah, so that's my team. Reading 1992. Amazing end of the season. But yeah, to win a double, that was good enough for me in a kind of league.
Fantastic. And final question to you then is, when you look back at your experience in Speedway, what's the one moment that you look back on with the most affection perhaps, but also maybe that makes you smile the most?
There's quite a few small ones really. I've got no massive task. I won the Premier League Best Pairs. I think I won the New Year Classic at Newport, which was the first. Again, something good for my CV. I think it was the very first meeting anywhere in the world in the 20th century. So that's a quiz question that nobody will ever get if they ask who won the first meeting of the 20th century. So good one. Things like that. I've made the rostrums of the Premier League Riders' Championship. I've won some league championships. So yeah, but probably as a one-off day, the Premier League Pairs was a good one to win that. And to be honest with you, my career, I'm more than happy. I've met so many nice people, whether it's fans, riders you race with, and you get it is such a family feel for everything. I'm so privileged that I'm in the position I am now. So I'm still going. So I'm still enjoying myself and loving every minute of it.
Okay, Phil Morris, thank you very much for joining us. It's been a pleasure.
No problem, anytime. You have a good one.
Phil Morris, race director for the Speedway Grand Prix Series, Speedway of Nations, and it was a fantastic chat with Phil as well, and hopefully he can get back to a full complement of Speedway Grand Prix in 2021. We keep our fingers crossed. Don't forget to listen back to all the previous episodes as well. If you're new to us and you've caught us on one of the most recent episodes, for example with Jeremy Doncaster or with Kelvin Tatum, well, you're very welcome along, but there's some great ones to work your way through. People always ask for my recommendations. It's like choosing between your kids, but I would always say don't miss Shane Parker, don't miss Neil Machin, don't miss Peter Oakes, don't miss any of them, but there's a few to get you started, but they're all great in different ways. We've got people who are announcers, Kev Long and Roy Clark, who speak about that. Nigel Pearson, of course, from the TV. We've also got Gary Havelock. Do not miss that one, whatever you do. And certainly don't miss, when it arrives in the next few weeks, Chris Morton. It's going to be amazing. Honestly, it's one of the best episodes I've ever done. And I say that with a great deal of confidence. So that'll be out at the end of the month. And stay safe, and we'll speak soon on Humans of Speedway.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Looking for a fun way to win up to 25 times your money this basketball season? Test your skills on Prize Picks, the most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. Just select 2 or more players, pick more or less on their projection for a wide variety of stats, and place your entry. It's as easy as that. If you have the skills, you can turn $10 into $250 with just a few taps. Easy gameplay, quick withdrawals, and injury insurance on your picks are what make Prize Picks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. Ready to test your skills? Join the Prize Picks community of more than 7 million players who have already signed up. Right now, Prize Picks will match your first deposit up to $100. Just visit prizepicks.com/get100 and use code GET100. That's code GET100 at prizepicks.com/get100 for a first deposit match up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy.